Good evening and welcome to The Word Gets Around, a business chat show. I'm Paul Smith, I'm your host this evening, and this is episode 3. As you can see, it's every day's a school day. You caught me out there in the intro, so you got buy one, get one free on intros. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you also enjoyed my new funky shirt. I thought I'd make myself a bit smarter for this evening for you all. So, how have you all been? Let me know in the comments. I've got 3 wonderful guests for you this evening. All excited backstage, looking forward to coming online tonight. So, it's been a bit of a weird week, hasn't it? I've found since I've been 40, I tend to be talking about the weather a lot. And I found myself for the first time saying, we really needed this rain. And I kind of had to slap myself for saying it before somebody else did. It's been a strange old year so far, and we're kind of nearly into July. Businesses are slowly starting to get back on their feet, some more than others. We've seen the opening of the high streets, very strange times for us all, but it's positive, small steps, and hopefully we can, more and more businesses and people can get back to work as quick as possible. It's been an extremely busy week for us. We're busy putting together our latest magazines. This is our last Taunton one, Taunton and West Somerset magazines. Unfortunately, we missed the May and June ones because of COVID-19, so we're really excited to be back and delighted that lots of businesses are able to come back with us as well, that we can promote them as we all go forwards and more businesses open. So let's get a guest on very soon, but first of all, let's find out who is on the show tonight. If I press the right button. First up, we've got Helen Heyns from Love Lifestyle. Then we'll be joined by John Holden from Cabiz Networking. And finally, we'll be joined by Philippa Haynes from Inside 101.
It's time for your questions and then what's in the box.
There we go. So that's what's in store tonight. For those of you who haven't joined us before at one of our networking events or one of our previous shows on here, what's in the box is a big highlight of the evening for many people that take part. It's a small box here that I had as a small child, and I used to keep all my love letters in from all my fans over the years. No, sadly, that's not true. I used to collect foreign coins. Yes, I was that cool. My coins used to go in here. But now this box holds 4 small but very mighty prizes that you at home could take home tonight. So there's a chance to win a small but very mighty prize in the box just here. Let's put this down here. So the person who gets to choose the prize this evening is the person that asked the best question. So our guests will be out this evening. There'll be a chance for you to ask your questions at the end of the night. So please keep them to the end, maybe write them down so you've got a chance to ask the questions at the end, and then I will choose which I feel is the best question, and then we will go from there to see what prize you get. So, really excited for our first guest. She's been lovely to get to know over the last kind of year or 6 months, very early in her business, but full of loads of excitement and energy. Really hoping that Helen is there. And she is. Hello, Helen.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm just going to put myself on now. I've disappeared. Here I am. There I am. There we go. So yeah, wonderful for you to join us on the show, Helen. So how have you been since I last saw you?
Really well, thank you. Yes, it's just been really busy. Lots of marketing, just lots of decorating, actually. Gardening. The house is immaculate. The garden's immaculate, and it's been actually really good fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have quite enjoyed the time to get some things sorted or some time out to think about what they really enjoy in life. And one thing that's really inspiring about talking to you is setting up your business, Love Lifestyle. If you'd like to talk to the people that are watching a little bit about what you do and why Love Lifestyle as a name. Quite intrigued.
Okay, so I create dream lifestyles in the Southwest. that consists of relocation services. So I personally project manage a relocation for my clients start to finish. A number of services included in there. But the idea is that I'm helping them to create a dream lifestyle in the Southwest, just as I feel that I have. I feel like I'm living the dream. And and actually that's where kind of the company was born from, because I moved from Welwyn in Hertfordshire in 1999 to Taunton, to Somerset, and it's become my home and I love it so much. I have a real passion for Somerset. However, in 2016, I actually relocated to the USA, to Boston in Massachusetts for work. And I relocated back again the next year. So I spent a year out there. So I am the expert in relocation. There is nothing I don't know. And in fact, I relocated back to the UK with 2 suitcases. So can you imagine,
Wow.
especially ladies out there, relocating back to the UK with 2 suitcases? I had my shoes laid out on the floor and I didn't know how I was going to choose. But, you know, you realise it's a lesson that actually it's just things. And what's more important are your friends and family, your network, and, you know, there's no place like home.
Absolutely.
Amazing adventures though. But so, yeah, so relocation services came from there.
Wonderful.
And then also the decluttering. So
Yes.
I declutter homes. And that came from, well, just being super organized. From ever since I can remember, I would arrange my wardrobe in item and color order, and it's still like that now. I just don't know how to make a mess. Everything kind of has its place, but it's not showroom. It's kind of, it's warm, cozy. So I really enjoy organizing homes, getting people tidy, and because it really helps. Tidy home, tidy mind.
No, definitely agree with that. And yeah, because it does feel good, doesn't it? Once you've made, it's very therapeutic to, well, good to throw things out that you're not using anymore or recycle them for people to use. But yeah,
Exactly.
it's a bit like exercise, isn't it? When you get rid of things, you're like, oh, I've had to kind of work out of the mind and kind of see more space to do
It
things
does.
with.
It makes you feel so much better and just, yeah, relaxed. It's very calming.
I
And so the
just,
final service then is the home staging. So I
yes,
stage homes for sale. If you would like your home styled for viewings, really to get the most out of it. So to get the better flow and get the most amount of money for the property. So you'll sell quickly and more profitably if you style your home. And then in return, when you actually move, when you move in, I can style your home to settle. And I really enjoy doing that. That's really good fun. I'm working with a lady at the moment who owns a property holiday home in the Southwest here, and it's my favourite thing.
no, it sounds like lots of fun to be able to do that. I mean, I think my wife would enjoy doing that as well. She always drags me around various places, looking at items we want to buy, and I have to pull her away. But
Yeah,
but no, I was thinking then about the really good, important point of say about the houses for sale, because I don't know, one of our hobbies is going on kind of online and having a poke around, looking at houses that for sale and see what they are. And some of them, you know, the photography, it's not just the photography, the quality of the photography that gets people interested, but like you say, it's having somewhere that looks like, you know, really a lovely place to be, a nice space.
yes, there are some definitely some top tips there that I can probably give you
Okay.
if you're styling your home. And really, the first thing is to declutter. That is the
Yeah.
first thing. So pack everything, take things out of the room that are not meant to be there, and just really organise. Bit of DIY, so doesn't need to be anything too strenuous, but certainly repairing minor breaks and repairing carpets or replacing carpets, painting walls, anything like that, and try and be a bit more neutral. Anything like that to freshen the place up. Definitely a deep clean. That's a really good one. Decor is the favourite. So anything you can do to create maybe an accent wall, put up mirrors to make the space look bigger if it's small. Really good lighting, that's really important. And then finally, make the outside. look nice too. So a bit of curb appeal. The garden needs to look as nice as the inside, especially as you're walking up to the property. Plant pots, seaweed, and that sort of thing. So those are my kind of 5 top tips for styling.
No, some great tips there. And I say if you're whether you're selling a house or moving in, it's when you've worked a hard day to come home to a nice space that you can kind of, particularly in the winter, I guess, with when people want to come home to a nice space, and the lighting makes such a big difference in your home, doesn't it?
Oh,
Um,
definitely,
it's
definitely.
funny you mentioned at the start that you were in Massachusetts because there is a Taunton in Massachusetts.
There is.
And yeah, and I think and it makes me laugh. Sometimes people tag in this. I think it's a news channel or local. People tag them in on Twitter, and I think they must get very confused when they get all of our news in Somerset over there.
Yeah, so it's known as New England, and the Pilgrims arrived. I won't go into too much of the history, but the
Right.
Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth, in Massachusetts, and settled there. And so a number of the towns and cities around there are named after English towns. So hence Boston.
Yeah.
Um, there's a Bridgewater. Yeah, so quite a few places that you'd recognise from here, which is quite funny. They're nothing like here though. It's quite different.
Yeah, I did have a little nose on Google Street View to see what it looked like, how different it was to Taunton over here. I was going to use I think I put in our magazine, the fountain, Taunton Fountain, like Vivery Park, and it came up with this fountain. I was going, that's not Vivery Park. Yeah, it was in Massachusetts. So,
Yes.
but so how your business is, I've got to know you since you came to our network and event and various events you've been to and catching up with you online. How have how have you been, setting up your business kind of around this time? Must have been very hard, but you've
It's
been
been
very positive online.
interesting. Yes, it's definitely been interesting, but I think it's just spurred me on to make it work even more. Um, certainly, as my first few customers block, it's all looking like fantastic. This is great, and then we locked down, and the one thing that I'm not going to do is give in. And so I made sure that I carried on a marketing plan, but I just tailored it slightly. So whereas before I was saying, well, here I am, this is what I do, I offer this, this, and this, I turned it around and I just gave out lots of tips and advice and information. And even just recently, I've tailored that again, and it's amazing what you can learn in lockdown. The
Yes.
amount of support and help has been absolutely incredible. And, there's so many people I could thank, from the bottom of my heart for the help. And if there's anything that I can do to help other people as well, I'm more than happy. But it's been quite interesting. But now I've got a new strategy, and I started a new marketing plan this week. So it's actually really exciting, and there's lots of exciting things to come.
Oh, excellent. That's great to hear. And I think I concur what you're saying about the network that we built up locally, and the people that it's been a really, really tough time, but it doesn't feel like you've gone through it on your own. It feels like we're all helping each other out. And I've been blown away by what the community have done, business community, but also, in our towns and, villages, seeing what's been going on. It's just been amazing to see.
Yeah. It feels like we're all colleagues.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's how
just
I
can't wait
kind of
to
see
get
it.
back out there though, Paul, and start face to face networking again. But it's nice because at least we can probably do a bit of social distance, take away coffees, and that's a really nice thing. I went into Taunton Town Centre Tuesday morning,
Yeah.
and it's a new normal, but it's nice. It's nice. I did a couple of jobs that I've been dying to do for like 3 months, and it was just nice to do that. And so yeah, it feels like we can just carry on now.
Yeah, I need to venture back in there, and yeah, it's been a while since I've been to see my squirrel friends in Vivery Park, so I need to go back and see them. But yeah, hopefully we will be able to meet up soon, and catch up for coffees like you say. And there's nothing better than meeting up face to face with people. But
Yeah.
but I've been seeing people embrace video like this. It's all quite scary. You just have to chuck yourself into it, don't you, really? And I know I've been putting it off for ages trying to do it. But some of the people that have, really thrown themselves into it, particularly on LinkedIn, it's been great to see. And it's forced a lot of us to come out of our comfort zone, and it's going to push us further along the line. So it's really good to see. So.
Yes, it'd be interesting to see how it goes forward with online and how we use it. But it's been certainly great to be able to meet a lot more people that I would never have usually met. Throughout the Southwest, I was attending a lot of networking sessions just around Taunton. So that's extended now to, Devon and Cornwall and Gloucester and yes, all sorts of places.
Brilliant. Well, lovely to catch up, Helen. Please pop back into the green room and enjoy a nice glass of something cold. We'll be bringing you back later on. So I'm going to pass back. So I'm going to pop back here. I'll catch up with you in a bit, Helen.
Thank you.
All right. In a bit. There we go. So it's great, great chatting to Helen there. It's been really nice to get to know her at the networking events that we've been to, and also online. And I say, as Helen said there, it does feel like colleagues with people in the business community. All the groups that you can join up to on Facebook and chat away, and on LinkedIn, people sharing each other's content, people sharing useful bookmarks. I've been looking through some of the bookmarks that I've saved over the years and been starting to share some of those, because some of the things that I've had there for years might be something that somebody out there would find really useful. So if you've got a favourite website or favourite little tool that you can use online, maybe share that into the Facebook group or on LinkedIn. So who's up for another guest? I certainly am. I'm really looking forward to welcoming him onto the chat show tonight. Let's see if he's there. Mr. Holden, is he there? Make sure I click the right button. And there he is. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Paul. I really appreciate you putting this on. It's been good fun and exciting. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, it's really good to see you. And I just firstly wanted to say thank you to you for all the years of support. You were our very first speaker at the Word Gets Around Networking event back in October 2011. And you've always been very supportive, very helpful. And I'm delighted that your networking group's taken off and your business is doing really well. And great to have you here this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I remember that very well, actually. It was a daunting prospect when you're first going out doing networking, standing up in front of people. This is a total different era now. I think this is going to be here to stay. So, we've got to get good at doing what it is that we're doing now. And a lot of businesses are going to have to do the same. So, yeah, fantastic. I like the shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you, John. Yeah, I know you like your shirts as well. So I was, I thought I'd wear it especially for you tonight. Very well.
I thought about a hat.
Oh, so there we go. You've upstaged me already, John. There you go. So, John, first of all, just wanted to talk about Utility Warehouse. And, you work with the Utility Warehouse, a great company at the moment that's doing very well and able to help a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I mean, what's happening at the moment in this climate is something that is going to really take hold more than it is a daunting prospect for many people. One of the things when I left the services, I joined the financial services and then went into running my own business and went in to become a businessman. And I was ill. And I found Utility Warehouse, and it was then I realized that when things happen in life, whether it's personal health, somebody else's aggrievement, or the climate as we are now, I thought, well, what a great business model to be in. So Utility Warehouse for me, and a lot of business people are listening to this call tonight and know exactly what Utility Warehouse is. But for those that don't, it provides services. Essential services that everyone needs. And, well, at this moment in time, recruitment's doubled. It's gone off the scale. It's becoming a very attractive option to bolt on alongside what people are doing. So I'm glad I'm in a position where I can help people, because that's what I enjoy doing. That's what I get the most out of it.
Yeah. Well, that's really good to hear. And I say that, like you said, more people that hear about these sort of network marketing that's you put in the time and that sort of helps you out. It's a good network of growing that and helping lots of people, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if you look at it, put it into perspective, if you have a business, we market ourselves through doing online videos. We do it through your Word Gets Around the magazine, very successful. very affordable, but we need to be able to take up those things. But why wouldn't you want to either leverage yourself through networking by complementing somebody that everyone needs and building your advocates up, building your networks up with utility warehouse people? Or think about it, passive income. So when situations go wrong, passive income means is that when you use your video or internet or switch on a light, somebody's getting paid. And I think that's a smart business model. It's essential. It's never going to go away. And it looks after those real life events that come at you for whatever reason. So I think people need to look at it for the third party view or for their own personal interests. Passive income, great source of income. Security anyway.
Yeah. Great, John. That's great. Really good. It's going well on that. I wanted to secondly talk, of course, about Kabiz, your own networking group, which has been, is it 2 years now, or is it 18 months? Time whizzes by.
Yeah, it is 2 years. We had our first birthday party, official birthday party as Kabiz. And we started out as Calling All Businesses, and that's the parent company. But I've had some great fun with this, ups and downs. I've failed a bit. I've used it to leverage my business to get more business by helping other people. So it's moving on to another level now, because purely on the basis I've been asking lots of people, are you getting any business from networking on these Zoom calls? And the response has been no. And I think now what I've got is some way to be actually make a system work, but online. And people want to know how that works. So if you need to be able to get to grips with that, to make sure your time that you're investing in doing these calls or even listening to them, that's an exciting prospect. And the marketplace is massive, absolutely huge. That's why I have no qualms in promoting your business, Paul, sharing it. I don't get this, ownership of what it is. There's nearly 5 million businesses, and there's going to be a lot more now because people are getting made furloughed, redundant.
Yeah.
So we're going to need to be able to help these people. And I think your role with what you're doing in your projects to roll this out, potentially, I'm sure you'll maybe address that later and let people know what's happening, is great. And I'm doing exactly the same. So teaching people the 3 basics: networking online, networking face-to-face, presentation skills that we're trying to do now. And I don't get them right all the time, hence the purple. Maybe I look like a bit of the lighting may not be right, but I don't really think you need to worry about that. And to be honest, and the other thing that we really need to get to heads around, get to grips with quickly, is social media training, which again, you're absolutely superb at, you're great at. So yeah, those 3 things is what we're going to need more of quickly, I think.
No, I definitely agree, because I mean, this situation this year has almost uncovered the gaps, hasn't it? Not just obviously in how bad broadband is in the remote areas, but also the skill set, as you mentioned then, in terms of people needing to understand if their business is to flourish and to grow, needing how to leverage the power of networking, leverage the power of social media marketing, and you say is put themselves out there with the presentation skills to learn. And as we were just talking to Helen then, it's kind of just start doing it to get better at it. I just started this and got a long way to go to get in near way professional about it. But it's at the moment it's a very good time because everyone's very forgiving for people to try new things, and it's been real interesting to see how people have embraced technology, how people have seen the opportunities there.
Well, one thing I really want to mention on this business call as well, Paul, is that people like yourself, Natalie Dyson, that was on, that's been responsible. There's so many people in the business community and the local communities come together. We've now got an opportunity to keep things, that momentum moving forward. Yes, we're going to come out of lockdown and we're going to have to live with a different lifestyle of how we actually, go out and do things. But from our community, I've seen acts of generosity that's totally blown me away. I mean, people just generally helping people out. That reflects into the business community. And I really do think that if we've got an opportunity now, keep your that generosity, keep that community spirit moving and forward. And if you can do the same within the business community, I think we can work and look after ourselves, locally and across the county.
Yeah, and I think building on that, we're a very collaborative culture here in Somerset, and we've done various projects together for when we did Somerset Day, for instance, when we all whizzed all round Somerset Day. For those that are watching, so Somerset Day, I think it was about 3 years ago, and we decided a few of us to split up Somerset into the 5 districts. So ourselves, we went to West Somerset. John, you were in Taunton Dean. Mendip, obviously, South Somerset and Sedgemoor, and we went round and met as many business owners as we could in a day, and get them to show the diversity, wasn't it, really, of the businesses in Somerset. And it was a long old day, but it was great, and boy did it show the sort of diversity of different businesses all tucked away sometimes.
Did we trend on Twitter? Weren't we trending on Twitter? The top trend, I think Johnny Two Jags, wasn't it? I think Prescott, I think, managed to top us in the end. But we were trending on Twitter. So, yeah, I genuinely think I am excited about the future. I'm really excited about what we're doing. And to be going forward, doing what we're offering now, it is get involved. Ask, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of support and help out there at the minute.
Brilliant. Okay, John. Well, it's been great to catch up with you. I'll let you go and put a purple hat on or something. Or
I better leave. You know what I mean?
There you go.
On Sunday.
So
yeah.
I'll catch up with you in a bit, John, at the end.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it.
Catch up in a bit. Okay. There we go. So it's John Holden. Lovely to catch up with John. So known him a number of years now, and he was wonderful help when we launched our networking group back in, say, October 2011. Kate Bale, a good friend of mine. Hi, Kate, if you're watching. And it was absolutely terrifying. Honestly, we thought about setting up a network group. We love networking. We thought, how can we improve it for us? We found that mornings weren't always great for us. We liked the evenings, fitting around the children and early starts and things. And we went with it. We saw how it would go. And we had about 40 people, I think, to the first event. Absolutely terrified we were. There's some picture of us looking scared to death, reading off some notes. But it really taught me that, you push yourself to do things and it doesn't become as scary as you once thought. As I said earlier on, it's been great to see people in embracing video, people trying new things online. During this time that's been such a horrid time and a crisis and so much uncertainty, and there is still lots of uncertainty, it's been great to see people building their skill set, really pushing themselves and trying things out and really taking off. So that's great. So we're going to get our final guest out. I'm really, really delighted to welcome her this evening. So I met Philippa, I think maybe 2 years ago. We got in touch. We chatted a little bit on LinkedIn. And then we met for a coffee. We got chatting about all things branding, marketing, and about your uniqueness in your business. So I'm delighted. Hopefully she is there. Let's pass over to... There she is. Hello, Philippa.
Hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Great to see you. And thank you so much for joining me this evening. It must have been kind of 18 months ago, 2 years ago that we caught up for a coffee.
I think we're getting towards 3 years, Paul.
Really? 3 years?
Yeah, it's gone really, really quickly, hasn't it? But yes, that was really at the start of my business, and I'm coming up to 3 years now, which I can't believe.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. We reached, I think, 10 years next January for Word Gets Around, so we're going to have a party.
You don't look old enough, my friend. You don't look old enough.
Oh, you're very kind. This is all photoshopped, It's just use the skill set. I've been upskilled on how to make, doing some of that. Wonderful, Philippa, to have you on the show tonight. So I know you quite well, got to know you quite well. Insight 101. If you'd like to just talk a little bit about, who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I was talking to a client the other day, and they said, "Do you know what? I've realised what you do, and it's so simple but so effective. You basically put structure around your a brand's messaging." And by that I mean there are a lot of people who have businesses out there, a lot of people who maybe have thought about their logo and what their website looks like. But actually, when it comes to their messaging and, okay, so what am I going to say about my business in my 60 seconds or, on my website or the first time I meet a client, they don't really know, or they can't get it done succinctly. So I help them to manage that, talk about exactly what they offer, then talk to them about who their customer is, so how they can absolutely focus down on that. Think about the gap that they have in the market where they operate, competition, all of that good stuff. And I help them to sort of pull it together into something that is meaningful, memorable, and clear. It was quite interesting the other day. I have a new client and she said, "I have not been this clear about what I do for 30 years. So
Wow.
I was like, that makes me feel really good. So yeah, it's brand strategy. That's the kind of the term that's used, but I find that inaccessible sometimes. I think you and I work very well, so I kind of do the thinking behind the brand and then pass it over to somebody like you who turns it into some magic visually.
Yeah, and so that's why it's been great to get to know you and with similar passions in what we do. And a lot of the people that come to me, usually the first point of call is I need a logo. I'm starting a new business, and that's where someone like yourself, say that the person that can talk to that person, actually plan it all out. You've just said in what you do, because the logo effectively is a badge that symbolizes what the business is about and underpins all of them and their brand values. But it's amazing that many people that don't see maybe the value or the importance in taking the time to get that and having, like you said, that clear strategy and understanding your business, your competitors, your brand positioning. And I guess it must be very rewarding for you to do that. Like you said, that client that said 30 years.
It is. It is. So actually, because of what's been going on with lockdown, a lot of big businesses have literally dropped tools and run. And I'm sure you know how that feels, and many other people too. So I have been focusing more on smaller businesses and those kind of starting out, only because they've had time to sort of think about what they're doing and they still want to plan. And so I've had quite a few conversations with businesses who've got really exciting plans. There's one, a recruitment or executive search business. And they are very different in the way that they put their business together, the business model. They want to disrupt the sector, but actually they put together a website and it looks very standard. It looks very similar to everyone else, suits, glass buildings, all of that. And although they've done quite a good job of explaining what they do, they haven't explained why it's different. They haven't shown that it's different. And so I'm going to be working with them to pull it all apart and go, what's the tone? What's the personality of the business? How do you want people to know that you're different? Visually, but also by what they say. So it's an exciting stuff like that. There are it's not just people who are stuck or confused. It's just people who want to cut through and they don't know how best to do that.
Yeah, I said I could have really used, could have really done with knowing you, maybe 10 years ago, because I know when I started my business, it was, I always explain it as like a jack in a box that the lid had been shut and I was released and I had all these ideas and just, I get distracted enough as it is now. So you can imagine Paul 10 years ago, all the possibilities of doing lots of different things. And, and one of the things I struggle with, I'm sure a lot of people that are watching is if you are a small business and if you are, if you're self-employed and it's a startup business, it's yourself. It's actually understanding that often you're unique as you, and there's the whole struggle of I versus we in the terms of your website and position. I wondered if you come across that quite often.
Yeah, I mean, that's not so much of a problem when it's a small business, but you're right. I mean, I work with a lot of larger accountants as well, and obviously they have to put a sort of a business hat on as well, and it's less I and more kind of a team. But I think equally you have to have the essence of a business. You have to be able to kind of sense what a business is like, the culture even. So, I mean, many people worry that they put too much of themselves into a business, but some of the greatest brands out there, and I was going to say Virgin, but they've had a fairly torrid time recently. Yeah. But you know, it's all about Richard Branson, you know. But hopefully, were he to step down, that DNA of who he is and what he's inserted into that business will live on. So I've always encouraged my clients not to get too hung up on that, because some people say, well, I want to sell the business in 5 years. So if it's all about me, then, you know, but actually the brand bit is all about what are the values of the business, what's the overall vision, what's the culture like, and how that business does business. So we all have a separate approach. You know, there's no one mortgage advisor that's the same, etc. And I think that's what businesses have to really remember, that, you know, it's how they do it. But sometimes they don't know how to articulate that. So, you know, they kind of say, oh, well, we're very professional and we're friendly. Well, actually, anybody in business, you know, should be professional, and they should be approachable and friendly too. So I take them on a journey, especially for the larger businesses, and say, but what is it about you? You know, what are your values? What sort of moves you? What have you learned over your life, both professionally and personally? And how do you inject that into your business? And so a lot of I've got a client now who's an accountant, and they are very future facing, very dynamic, and they've said, you know, we've survived the lockdown like most accountants, but we're ahead of the curve because digitally they're very developed. They said, now we want to convey to people how we're unique, how we do things, what our brand is all about, what they can expect from the service. So it's really important. There are lots of aspects. It's quite important to get right, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about which brands, because you've worked with some big brands in the past, haven't you? And I was just wondering some of the brands that you've worked with, which you enjoyed working with the most, and why.
As in when I was working for a business?
Yeah, working with them, yeah.
So, what, in my days, for instance, Levi's, you mean? Or
yes, yeah,
Levi's.
Yeah.
So I think Levi's was always the most exciting business for me, because everybody always thinks it's pretty cool. And I spent a lot of time talking to very kind of out there customers who bought jeans, etc. Very fashion forward people. So it was quite an eventful time. So that was probably the best time. But quite interesting, Levi's was a brand at that time, and still is, I think, that was not as hot as it used to be in the 80s with the 501s, etc., etc. So we spent most of our time talking about the big turnaround when everything would come good. And the relevance there, I think, is that business, even though it was big, had rested on its laurels. It hadn't thought about the future. It had just thought 501s will go on forever and everybody was going to buy jeans. And of course, the likes of Zara came in, all kinds of different businesses with different business models. And suddenly they weren't as cool as they thought they were, or they used to be, and they didn't know how to get out of it. And I think that's a similar situation now to lots of businesses who've hopefully survived the crisis that we found ourselves in. But equally, they've now got to think about the future, what they've learned, were they fit for purpose? You know, did their brand and the structure of the brand and the way that, you know, their customer target, the way they served their business, was that the right thing to do? So lots of people are pivoting, lots of people are taking stock and really thinking about what's the best way of moving forward. I mean, you, Paul, you're a stunning example of a business that you've stayed very true to your business and your brand, but you've just translated it online. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Give you the £20 later.
Yeah. But it is all about pivoting. And I mean, you're about community, networking, keeping the Southwest together. And so you've just turned what was essentially your magazine or your networking event into something like this, which is pretty much like, as we were joking earlier, the Graham Norton show, where you get people in and talk about their lives, etc. But it works brilliantly because that's what, you know, your business is all about. So it's actually a very clever pivot.
Yeah, I think it's been a big struggle over the years trying to work out, should you do this? And I'm sure lots of other people will feel the same. But do I put this out? Do I show this vulnerable side, or is this a bit too wacky? And I think for us, since we started when we launched the networking group, it was very much about a template of being very open and very personable, very, very, we're not afraid to be different. Like, so, you know, people can stand and have a beer in their flip-flops, that's fine. Or, you know, it's about people, it's about conversations, it's about helping others. And and I think from what you said then, goes for small businesses and larger businesses, this time, when things can turn very quickly, and you find that if you don't act, then you can find yourself overtaken by your competition. It's a good time to almost audit what you've got to date and fix the stuff that doesn't work, that's wishy-washy, and actually nail in on the essence of what you are and what you stand for. And that's why I really love what you do, and untangling some of that mess, I guess, sometimes over time. Like you mentioned that client, it's become like a bag of string on all tied up, and it's untangling, actually taking the kinks out and going, this bit it's not relevant anymore, and actually you're in the dark ages and you're going to be out of business if you don't evolve.
And it's some of it is very much around human behavior, especially small businesses, because I mean, one of the ladies that she sent me a lovely email today, actually, and she's got it's quite a large business, that hers, but you know, she just couldn't get her head around it, and she's going to have to go on a journey, to be honest, because she's used to scratching the itch constantly and thinking, I can't quite get it right, I can't. And so literally she's writing constantly and sort of rephrasing, and it's like, stop, because actually it's really clear now, but she's so used to sort of scrabbling about that she can't quite rest. And so, you know, and that's it's a little bit, when you first have your business, you have to step into the shoes of being a business owner, don't you? And sort of put on that part. And I think certainly for her, you know, she's had this baby that she's loved, and she was quite emotional the first time. She said, I know I've got to change, and I know the focus of the business has got to change, but I've been wedded to it for such a long time. So, you know, I think it takes courage to do some of this. And it's always those people, there's a similar attitude to everybody I work with, whether it's a big or a small business. And that is that they fundamentally want to change things. They want to drive, new ideas, and they're very future facing. And they always want to disrupt the sector that they're in. So, which is perfect for me.
I was interested in when you've got the bigger businesses and there's lots of different personalities, and maybe taking them on that journey and that culture, when you've got maybe some people are resistant to change. Have you found that in the past?
Yeah, I mean, change is a difficult thing, and we've all experienced change recently, haven't we? And I suspect that most people have heard reference to the change curve, where people sort of fight it, then become disillusioned, and then come out of it and start to sort of build again. And I think that's what we're seeing and have seen. But it's the way that change happens within an organization, which is really important. So larger organizations in particular, you have to communicate, you have to tell the teams what are going to go on. You have to get those teams to take ownership as well and input. It's not a senior leadership doing it and then just imposing it on everybody else. They have to take ownership too. And you have to go on that journey with them to encourage them and to show them what the benefits are going to be and show them what the steps are so that they can literally walk the journey too. And most people at some point, they kind of understand and that the light goes on. And the reason for doing this is because the business wants a better environment for their team, better productivity, a happier team, which translates into much better service for the client or the customer. So it's a win-win, but it's one of those that you can't just say this is what we're doing and then keep people in the dark. So it's a gradual process. And I work with employee engagement and culture specialists as well, so that once I've done my piece, if they want to start thinking about how that's embedded into the team further, then I use their services. So
that's one of my points I was going to say was about the legacy that you leave them. Or obviously you're there to come back and work on future projects and things, but like having that blueprint, isn't it, that everybody, and you mentioned empowered, which I chatted to somebody locally, he's got a big team, and he saw taking them on that journey, say it helps the morale, the ownership of the business, that they've got a part to play, which is crucial in the business growing and say the people and the business as a whole financially all together. I was interested in, so going back to values, I was going to say Keith Heffernan mentioned, if I can bring it on the screen, he said, a good point, Timpsons are a great example of demonstrating their values. And I wondered if some others that you're particularly fond of that are very good at their brand values and reflecting them in their marketing and their communications.
Yeah, well, I think again, this period of kind of uncertainty and severe angst, let's be honest about it, I think has tested a lot of businesses and a lot of brands. And obviously those brands that are the larger brands that we see on the high street, etc., have unfortunately come under the spotlight, and some have done really well. The likes of Pret-a-Manger, for instance, they sort of rallied round and offered free coffee to the NHS, etc., and done a lot more for their staff. So that's a great example of just demonstrating the sorts of business that they are, versus some others which have failed, the likes of Virgin, who actually, their values are, I've written them down, in fact.
Okay.
Heartfelt service, delightfully surprising, insatiable curiosity, and smart disruption. But they are meant to be changing business for good. Well, at the moment, they haven't really been changing anything, and they haven't really been very disruptive or heartfelt. So, with Richard Branson and his begging bowl, and that may be for legitimate reasons, but from a media perspective and from those people that see in the public, it's like this guy lives on an island, and now they're asking for money. And go back about 20 years when he was on TV criticizing other airlines for doing exactly the same. It's when you're in the public eye, and equally you have to be consistent. And so Pret for me is very good. Waitrose initially I think was very good in terms of they were delivering flowers to some of the NHS staff. I think it's become a little bit muddy because I think there's been sort of issues around furloughing and pay and etc. So it's got difficult. And Brewdog as well have produced the sanitizer, haven't they? But then again, there have been questions around what was the real thinking behind that, because there's a massive Brewdog logo on it.
Yes.
So you know, it's very, very difficult. But it's those businesses, I think, who are just honest. You know, even if they're struggling, even if whatever it is, it's not what they do, it's how they do it.
Yeah.
You know, so even with Virgin, if they tackled it in a slightly different way, people would forgive them. So yeah, and there are lots of businesses within the small businesses network who are helping each other and doing all kinds of things. And of course, there are too many to mention, but there's a lot of good going on. So
Yeah. Well, I actually have a folder. I save all the email campaigns, good and bad, that come into my inbox from the supermarkets. I've kept them, and
really,
I've kept some from Brexit as well. I've kept just to check how the tone changes over time. I'm quite kind of fascinated by how people do it, and
yeah.
I wanted to one of the things I wanted to cover was about. And well, first of all, was about brand. Effectively, you said then is effectively how they make you feel, isn't it? I guess that's one of the key things: is how a brand, when you think about it, the lasting impression of how they, you know, and particularly something so sensitive as what's been going on this year. Chewy's been great, for instance. We booked a holiday. You know, it's in August, but I've kept their communications has been spot on. Obviously, they've got big teams that write these. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was with the kind of the campaigns like Black Lives Matter, is that element of jumping on the bandwagon for the bigger brands, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And some of the couples like, you know, Apple, for instance, or Nike, and then you look at their boardroom team and there's not one person of color in the team. What do you think about that in terms of the brand value actually being aligning yourself to a campaign where it could be seen to be hypocritical? And what have you thought about it?
It's a very fine line, isn't it? And I think that there are some brands that have just done such a great job of reading the mood and feeling what's going on, and just they've nailed it, and others who really haven't. And I think probably it's those people who respond first, but maybe not perfectly, that are the people who are, you know, they are the transparent ones, and they are doing it for the right reasons. As time moves on and you see, you know, the lockdown spread over 3 months, I think it becomes a little less believable sometimes. And so, but it's not an easy one. You know, somebody was saying actually earlier on in a call I had, being a brand, sticking to your vision and your values is one of the hardest things to do, because actually if you use them properly, they have to be the template or the blueprint for everything you do. And that means that you have to go back to them and interrogate them every time. And sometimes it doesn't feel easy to do what you've committed to do in your statement.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, that's what you have to do. And I think that guides you, really. You know, it's very difficult to talk about the Black Lives Matter, et cetera, et cetera. That's probably a bit of a larger conversation to have than here. But I do think that if you have a template or a blueprint or a vision for what your business and your brand stands for, then it does set you on the right road for you and for your customers.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Having that, say, in your forefront of all the time, that you're saying this is the essence of what we do, even if I guess it's 5 or 6 words, that this is what we stand for in those words, that you can align yourself to. And I guess one of the things I was interested about Levi and things, the big thing about obviously now is the fact that the world is much more transparent, and that, you know, rather than it being broadcasted through TV, in magazines, there's that other voice back the other way, isn't there? And scrutiny from people towards brands. And I know that if I want someone to do something that they're not doing, it's to get on Twitter and say, "Oi, you, fix this." And it's back in their court. The ball's in their court to actually align to their values as a customer service, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
pretty hard.
I think we've talked for a long, long time about the customer as king. And I think that's becoming more and more so over the years. And I was reading an article today that was talking about customer experience, where, you know, they expect a lot from brands these days. It's not just about the product itself or the price. Experience is really the defining factor. And that is what they want, whether it's online, offline, on the high street, wherever it is. And that requires a lot of effort and energy. But, you know, that's what people want.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a tough one.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting with where we go from here with brands, and like you say, how they keep their brand values, how they evolve their business.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking to quite a few businesses to say, you know, now's the time, because nobody will have got it right, but it's time to kind of reflect on what's happened, think about what you've learned, what works, what doesn't, and, you know, if you have a team, to ask them as well and get their perspective, and then basically kind of rebuild your strategy, whatever that looks like, and that is from a brand perspective. So, you know, it's not enough to say we want to grow X% in X years. It's because that only tells you what. The how is how you're going to do that from a brand perspective. You know, what are you going to be doing, and that guides the results essentially. So we're taking people on the journey really to sort of pick themselves up from lockdown and to start thinking about how they can create a more sustainable business. And I mean that not from an environmental perspective, although that's obviously important, but just from a, you know, if and when the next blip comes, they'll be set up for it, or they'll be more prepared anyway.
Yeah, that's really, really sound advice. I think a lot of people watching will take a lot from that, because, as I say, there's loads of really good points in there, and for people to think about their business and what's important and what they stand for, isn't it? And how that comes across as well. So brilliant. Thank you, Philippa. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to bring back in John and Helen if they'd like to join us. They're still there. They are very good. There's Helen. There she is. And John's got the hat on. There we go. I thought he might do. So thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. I'm going to open up to questions. If anybody'd like to put a question in the comment and reactions, that would be great. And I can ask them questions if they're coming through. There's a lot of Facebook questions. I'm just making sure they're not all just the Facebook ones. See what's going on here. There we go. I was interested in what you both, Helen and John, what you both thought on what Philippa was saying then, and if what you kind of took from that to your business.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, John, you go.
No, ladies first. Go on, Helen.
Oh, thank you. For me, I've just rebranded my business, and so it was really interesting to hear what you were saying. It is such an important thing to do. It's not about being everything to everyone, it's something to someone. And if you don't have a target persona and good branding, and you feel a bit kind of lost with it. It might not match. And so that was really interesting, Philippa. Really enjoyed what you said.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think the point I think you've got to be careful with regarding how people react to it. I've seen a multitude of different reactions, both from both sides, I suppose. When I've listened to people's viewpoints, there's things matter for other people, or at the same time as this black matters as well. I think it's a really relevant thing, where people stand. I'm just saying it's a very precarious balance, and I think I'd rather have somebody looking at it for me sometimes to see how you can approach it. I think I would approach it with caution. You've got some really great points there, Philippa, how we're going to go forward.
I think the interesting thing, sorry, John, I think the interesting thing is, and I've done a lot of trends work over the years for various organisations that I've worked for, and increasingly it's brands who lead the way and who set the agenda really for the world actually these days, because a lot of governments are letting people down, sort of breaking promises, high anxiety, all of that. And actually, it's quite a few of the brands that are leading the way in terms of what they're doing and how much they are they're managing to achieve, versus some of the stuff that's going on. I mean, Elon Musk, love him or hate him, has got rockets going up into space, and the government is really struggling to sort things out down here. So I mean, that's an extreme example, but brands are increasingly important and are guiding people's own values and supporting them as well. It's really important.
I think sometimes people, especially some of the brands, of what they've done and said, they've crucified themselves, with their statements, and they've really put themselves under pressure. I mean, recently, I can't remember the name of it, but they just made a donation, didn't they, to the black communities, because they just said something out of hand that maybe against it, and it turned popular opinion.
Yeah, it's the pub, wasn't it? It's the pubs, I think, and Lloyd's.
Wow. Well, I just think we could talk about this still a long time, but I genuinely think it's just looking at it from a brand perspective. I think you've just got to find that level playing field where you can actually help people understand that other things matter when you're considering work, going forward. I haven't put myself across very well, but the point is, I think things are changing, and they have to. Now's the time.
Yeah, I think overall it is just a lot of us have had to pivot the business, haven't we? We've had to take a stock of where we've been, where we're going, and fill in those gaps. And I think there will be a lot of businesses that don't see the importance in that. And there'll always be those businesses that carry on doing it. We've always done it this way, so why stop now? And I think it's going to accelerate a lot more when we come out that the people that are taking this time to step back and realise what's going on, now will put them in good stead going forwards. I think with Helen, with your business, in the early stages of it, having being thrown into kind of this this year so far, and how you adapt to that. And like you said, you've already looked at opportunities that you can do slightly different, and that then teaches you new things. You said you've already learnt new things, new skills. And I wondered what you were working on at the moment, or the next stage for your business was.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, you're right. You have to adapt. It's eat or be eaten right now. And so the next stages, I think, will be really just to get back out there as soon as possible, and really, after I've learned so much, and take that learning forward, and really progress with the business. But yeah, it's all in hand. It's just one of those things that just takes a bit of time, but it's good stuff.
Excellent. I just wanted to ask you, John. Obviously, we've been doing lots of chats like this on Zoom and various platforms. I thought, when we're allowed to go back to, normal and be able to sort of, shake hands and whatever, how do you see networking changing now that this has all come in and people have embraced technology and are used to working from home? Do you think people will pull back from wanting to do the face-to-face physical events, or how do you see that long term?
No, it is a difficult question, Paul, but I really think that we're not going to come back from this. A massive percentage of people will continue on doing what we're actually doing now, not just because of the fear of what this coronavirus has actually instilled in people. It's not actually instilled, it's ingrained now. That suspicion of not understanding how actually to deal with something that you can't see will always have that apprehension. So it will always be fueled. And if what we're saying that this is a time span of 2 years, and don't be fooled by this. This is a, will I want to take that fast tracked remedy, not knowing what the outcome might be? And I just think, unfortunately, we have to go through this pain period of before that happens. And going back to your original question, is to say where people know, we're working efficiently now at home more efficiently. In fact, I'm more busy than I have been before because it's refueled how I work in some ways. But I really do think, sorry guys, this is here to stay, and this is not going to be going anywhere. So you've got to get used to this. Don't get me wrong, I've really missed the physical contact. I'm a physical, face-to-face person. I like that presence, if that makes sense. And we're all feeling that. That's not just me. Everyone's feeling that. Not being able to pick up your children or your friends or hug or shake. I've built my whole business up on handshakes.
Yeah.
This is tough for me. This is really tough. So I really do think that we'll have to move it at another level. You have to start getting fit. And that fitness is obviously what you're doing now and how you're doing it. So, get in with the actual understanding of creating your business presence, using Philippa's, the philosophy in the brand and how it's changing, how it's moved. So yeah, don't get left behind.
Excellent.
Yeah, and sorry, go on.
Go, Philippa.
No, I think I'm sure a lot of people have pivoted or had to rethink. I certainly have, and all of my office I've broken down into various parts now. So what was the Brand Unique program, which was for solo business owners really, or micro businesses, I chunked into 3 parts. So it's what's the brand offer, who's my target, that piece. The next bit was what's the brand and the personality. So what is the wrapper, if you like, of the offer? And then the third part, what's the brand, how's the plan, how are you going to execute that, turn it from an idea into activities, so whether it's the website or whatever it is. And that's actually worked really well because it's been a lower price point to get people in, and they've experienced the first part and thought, really love this, I can see where it's going, and so I've pulled them all the way through 3 parts. And although that's more time it's more time heavy, what it's meant is I've managed to get people in to just experience the program, if you like. And I think that's been really important with lockdown because there isn't a lot of money around. So getting somebody in on a very small commitment has been really it's made me busier than I have been in 2.5, 3 years really.
Wow.
So we've just got to think differently.
Yeah, I think it is. It is just looking at taking a step back, isn't it? And it's weird because I often only ever do it when I'm on a holiday. I go on a holiday with an empty notepad every time I go, and it's full by the time I come back. And then, I end up writing down 20 things to do rather than focusing on kind of 1 or 2, which I'm always guilty of. So that's a great point. We've had a message from Clive, my father. For all of you, are people fed up with old-style politics when we see Jacinda Ardern PM, what she's doing in New Zealand? I guess with values and it's how have you all found this year in terms of, obviously it's a really unprecedented time, using that word, for this year, but how do you think values have stood this year and to do with politics? Just thrown it out there, just chucked it in there. Don't blame me.
Okay, no. I generally find that I think again this is the time for change, and in some ways because there's the policies from every party or from the parties, in particular the 2 main parties, Labour and Conservative, you can't differentiate them. They both want the same things in some ways. But I think if we try and look at this as a wake-up call, and we keep the change to make our culture, society, our way of life better, I generally think that something has to change in the way that we choose to do certain things. This has become so complex with children, with business, with trading, with it's now thrown in this spanner in the works. So in a way, if it continues on, I generally think that something has to change politically. In that sense, it's it's given so much now for the political parties to choose on. I belong to a climate change group, and who normally this evening who chat about the things that how we can make things work. But I generally find that it's the climate, from my perspective, or the environment is the bigger issue, but it's put on the back burner because we're dealing with personal issues that we can't think, and do and function at this moment in time. But it's how and this contradicts my business model. Growth. I want to succeed. You know what I mean? But we cannot have a society or global society or global culture based on grow, consumption. So that has to change, and it has to come from the political parties to make sure our businesses are sustainable, or able to not be this draw on the environment or on our way of life. Instead of just forgetting the person that hasn't got a great deal of things. It's now been a case of in communities now. Look at the homeless in Taunton. They've been housed all over the country. In fact, they were housed instantly like that.
Yeah.
Grants giving out for 10 grand for business grants. A grant. This money is a flush at the moment. So we have to. Well, I know I'm going off on one a little bit. Sorry, but if anybody
no,
here, but please say what you feel. And I generally find that this change, we have to grasp it, but we've got to do this ourselves. It's not down to the people in charge. I'm not saying a revolution. I'm just saying, well, look, we've got to look at things as a community. It starts in your own community, in your own street, as I've been seeing. And that for me is here, that passion, that heart is well felt in the community and in the business. And that's my message anyway, for a way that we can live a better life anyway, and do more.
Good point, John. Helen?
Yeah, I think you're completely right, John. We really are adapting, and it's not just about how we've adapted in lockdown, it's about how we're adapting after lockdown. And so much is changing. You mentioned the homeless as well. I mean, that's great, they've all been housed, it's amazing. And certainly where housing is concerned, living in our homes a lot differently. So I try and keep out to the political stuff, but I tend to have opinions on it sometimes. But no, I mean, my focus really is just on how we are living now, and people do use their homes differently. They are adapting their homes. They're living in their homes differently. So that's where my focus will be. Actually helping people to live in their homes in a different way, because we're going to be spending a lot of time there.
Yes, very true. Yeah.
So Clive, to answer him as well, from my perspective, I think traditional politics and governments, it's always been an us and you, sort of dictating from the top. And to a certain extent, I think there's been a lot of broken trust. But if we look at the New Zealand case, which is incredibly positive as a story, what she's managed to do is she's been consistent, she's kept her promise, she's taken immediate action, she's read the mood of the nation there, explained as she's gone along what she's doing and why. She's been very clear about that. So again, a message, brand message almost. And making everybody a partner in it. It's not you will do this, but it's, we as a nation will come together and we will all kind of stay home and stuff. And she has been analysed in her use of language, etc., and her general behaviours. And I think it's a very new, much more dynamic and much more human kind of approach, which really, I think, we're all in agreement that the old model is beginning to break and isn't fit for purpose anymore. And we need to ensure that we're not idiots. We know what issues are. We just want transparency. And I think that's what New Zealand managed to do.
No, love that. I think that's the thing. I found this year fascinating. Like I said to you, about keeping some of the emails that I get from these companies. I always like to stand back and see how how people adapt and how they. I guess with the politicians, it's you know, it's always, they can all talk the talk, isn't it? But walk the walk. And so much of it, once it's out there in the public domain, it's then fact, or it's definitely going to happen. And you mentioned then, Philippa, about actually taking people on the journey, whether it's politics or whether it's in a business. It's having those people that are empowered, whether, you know, that we feel that we're listened to, or, you know, it translates, doesn't it, from business into politics to everyday life, whether it's this policy or that policy or this MP or that MP. It's the common values of actually being sincere, of being authentic, of being transparent, and actually, being honest. If we can't do this because of X, then we're going to have to do this, and we're all going to have to do this together. But I guess it's when it's the walls pulled over our eyes, and it's unravelled that actually it wasn't true to start with, and that's, I guess, when, you know, when people aren't happy, and it breaks society. But as John said, it's been a time in towns and villages for people as communities. It's been a great time for you know, people to come together, and actually social media. Sometimes a lot of people need a break from it because it can be awful, and people are just slagging this off and saying this, that, the other. But actually, during this crisis, it's been such a positive environment to be in, with most of the time for people sharing positive things. I think it's there's been loads of lessons, and all of you said tonight is about embracing change, and those that don't embrace change, whether it's in business or whether it's in your personal life, they're going to be left behind. So it's a lesson for everybody, isn't it? Kind of watching.
Yeah, and I think it's what it's taught us is that people need the right mindset. I think we talk a lot about resilience, but mindset is everything, because this isn't going away, as John said, and we've all got to come to terms with that and look to the future anyway. And it's when you fall off that and just kind of go, I want to go back to how it was, you know, that's where it becomes difficult. And as you say, there are some things that are better now, based on, you know, we're talking more. I know my neighbours more. Yes, it's been absolutely terrible, and the terrible stories, but you know, we've all got to keep going.
And as Dame Vera Lynn said, we will meet again. And thinking of her today, because she passed away at the age of 103. So 103 is incredible, but quite poignant for where we are.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, Helen. That did. First thing I thought of was it was very strange how we had, you know, Captain Tom, or you know, and that kind of that age, that, you know, that group of wonderful people that helped shape where we are today. And it was kind of poignant that after everything that's happened, it has been a sort of, a kind of different eras changing over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. I think we're gonna end it there. There's no more questions coming through, so the prizes are going to roll over. I'm just going to keep them all, or we can share them amongst ourselves. But thank you, all three of you. It's been lovely. Thank you so much for taking part in the chat show tonight. I will share the details for yourselves if I haven't shared them everywhere already. If people would like to get in touch, then please get in touch with them all. That would be wonderful. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'll let you know the guest speakers and what we're up to then. If you've enjoyed this, please share it with your friends. Please share it with your colleagues. And please subscribe to the channel and join us on our meetup group, or the Facebook group, where we can also carry on conversations online and hopefully face-to-face very soon. So thank you all once again. It's Friday tomorrow, I think it is. Yes, it is. So enjoy yourselves. Enjoy a nice cold drink or something you might enjoy over the weekend. And hopefully, I think it's meant to be a heat wave next week. So maybe I get to wear my shirt again. So there we go. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for taking part, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.